Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Strange Stories. I am Roger Hanson, and tonight I will be your host. With me is the infamous Mark Edworthy, Lord Edworthy.
Hi, the infamous.
Tonight we are going to be filling in for Excelsior, Auto X. He usually does his show tonight, which is Automatic Pilot, but due to sickness, he ended up getting sick. He had to cancel and postpone his show for a later time. So me and Mark decided we would come in and do a show in his time slot for everybody so that we can make sure that everybody gets to see a stream at this time that's designated for a show here on the wonderful world of weirdness. Now, I did want to mention something too, that for anybody who is on Minds, that I wanted to mention to everybody on there that I did start getting active on Strange Stories on Minds again. So posts are going to be coming out on there on a regular basis. As well as that, besides Minds, I also have Strange Stories on not just Minds.com, but also on YouTube. That is the original channel that I had before I started doing streams on the wonderful world of weirdness. On there, that's where I put the full edited versions of these shows on. So if you guys want to see these later on, edited out and in full content, you can find it on Strange Stories on YouTube. On the wonderful world of weirdness, I post 15-minute edited videos on both YouTube and on Rumble. And on Strange Stories on Minds.com, they're the 15-minute videos as well. You can also watch the full episodes of everything that I have on my main channel, which is Roger_Hanson on Minds.com, in the membership section. They're also available for free on Patreon, and you can catch them on Locals as well. So that's enough with the plug. Hello, Mr. Edworthy.
Hi.
So you know what to expect when it comes to doing an episode of Strange Stories, right?
Have I done one with you before?
Yeah, you've done quite a few of them with me.
Yeah, I can't remember so many different episodes. But yeah, I've got your 3 talking points there as well.
The last time we were on this one, we did we got into crop circles and stuff of that nature, and started talking about the Valley of Death in Russia.
Yeah.
Now, we were wanting to talk about the Mothman, but it got so interesting, I'd say, with the whole crop circles and where that took us, that we just decided to wait till a later time to get into the Mothman. Now, for me, this is kind of like with the crop circles, okay? There's a lot of things about the Mothman story that was overlooked. And I mentioned that what I mentioned in the crop circles kind of goes into that as well. But before we get started, I wanted to ask you, do you know much about the whole Mothman legend?
The only reference I've ever noticed is the references that Bethesda Studios Softworks made in Fallout 76. Fallout 76. That's the only reference I can work with.
Yeah, it was
It was very limited and very, yeah.
it was actually the other way around. It wasn't 76, it was 67.
Right?
You said
Fallout 76 is the game.
the bridge, right?
No, I'm talking about the Bethesda game.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the only reference I've got. So
Oh, wow.
actually, no, my mum used to be a subscriber of some magazine back in the 80s, and I seem to remember sort of strange stories, sort of this sort of content back in the 80s, and I remember one book containing some reference on this, but so long ago I can't. Well, yeah, you're gonna have to refresh my memory.
Now you've heard of you've heard of a place in West Virginia called Point Pleasant, haven't you?
Sounds familiar.
That's where the Mothman was actually originally first, right around in the area. It was around Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Now, a lot of people, when they think of the Mothman's first sightings, they think it's usually has to do with the catastrophe that happened on the bridge, the Silver Bridge. But that's not actually the first sighting of the Mothman, which it's the big incident that happened. But
you're going to have to explain.
Well, the Mothman basically, first of all, it's a legendary cryptid, okay, and it's not just associated with what took place on the Silver Bridge, but it also has to do with other sightings that took place prior to it. Now, before we get going, what I wanted to do is kind of like describe the creature, okay, and what this creature is supposed to look like. Now, the sightings, when they say the Mothman, they're talking about a creature that stands 7 foot tall. It's got a humanoid form, and it also has a wingspan, wings with a wingspan of like 10 foot, and it's glowing red eyes. Now, the weird part about the description that they give them is that the red eyes that are glowing aren't really, well, some of them aren't, but most of them aren't actually. Some of them do mention this, but they don't appear on the face or in the head. Rather, they're set up in the chest, okay, instead of on the head. So they have these red glowing eyes that seem to be in the chest area, and some people have even said that the Mothman is headless. You know what I mean? So there's been different kind of descriptions about it. Now, one thing that really stuck out to me, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because like the first thing that really dawned on me was I think it was in the fall time when we had the episodes with Nancy where I was talking about the cosmic weave.
Yeah.
And I did that whole thing, and she mentioned the Mothman whenever I was discussing a lot of that. And the reason why it dawned on me that was actually something that I'd missed was because of the way that these people described the Mothman's behavior. Now, some of the witnesses have stated that this creature is said to glide through the air, okay, and not slowly, but like at speeds up to like 100 miles an hour, and this is without flapping its wings, okay. That goes without saying. that it also has like a high-pitched squeaking or a shrieking noise that goes with it. Now, the thing that stuck out to me in that description is it just glides through the air without moving its wings, you know what I mean? And that is what the description of the Mothman is. Now, the sightings, getting back to the sightings, the legendary sighting was the Silver Bridge, and it's what happened is the Silver Bridge collapsed, and that happened in December. It was December the 15th in 1967. Now this resulted in the death of like 46 people. Now, while that was taking place, large numbers of sightings were reported because of that sighting or that disaster. People who were involved in the actual collapse of the bridge said that they had seen the Mothman, and that was a big deal. But before that, okay, when I was wanting to say the first reported encounter of the Mothman actually happened in November of 1966. Okay. Now that's when 5 grave diggers in West Virginia ended up reporting that they had saw a brown human-like creature flying over them. Now, this happened, and the grave diggers, there was 5 of them, they all kept it quiet. They didn't really want to mention it because freaking, they didn't want to be thought of as crazy or nothing, and they kept it quiet until after the bridge incident had happened. Okay. Now, just after that, 3 days later, there was more sightings from 2 young couples, which came from the TNT area. And the TNT area, right there in that area, was a former World War II explosives manufacturing site. Okay. Now, that happened, and then the Silver Bridge connection happened. Okay. Now, the thing of it is like you get a lot of Mothman sightings now that is like all over the world. People say now that they had sightings of the Mothman all around the world, but that's what started it. Now, if there's more sightings in different areas, I don't know, you know what I mean, but this is the part that I stick to. I know that a lot of times whenever cryptids like this happen, people kind of jump on the bandwagon. All of a sudden, you know what I mean, they see freaking Sasquatch in freaking, some small area where it's not even a part of the environment, so.
Yet in mid of London.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing, yeah.
So that's basically the whole storyline behind that. Now, there's also been claims of Mothman sightings that were around other disasters, and believe it or not, Chernobyl was one of them.
Okay.
So, like they've even said that the Mothman was sighted in Russia during the apartment bombings, and some of them have even made claims that they'd seen the Mothman even during the 9/11 incident too. So there's been other sightings that have been involved in the Mothman besides that area. And like I said, I'm not gonna say for sure if it's true or not. You know what I mean? Now, the thing that gets me is like the skepticism that goes with it too. You know, when it comes to like what the scientists and everybody says, like they like to try to say that it's misidentifying birds. You know what I mean? Or a lot of biologists says it and they've done this with the Jersey Devil too. They've tried to say that witnesses, and they call them experts. You know what I mean? They're like they mix up owls and cranes and everything with you know, the Mothman. I mean,
that's a more likely explanation.
Well, I mean, how big do you think barred owls get? Do you think they get big enough?
Cranes get become large. Cranes have a large wingspan.
Well, I mean the wingspan, yeah, but like body mass, like these are supposed to be, you know what I mean? You gotta
again. How reliable are these so-called witnesses?
Well, that's the whole thing, man. It's like the numbers. If it was maybe, you know, like 20 or 30 sightings or not, that'd be one thing. Especially during the Silver Bridge incident, like there was a ton and tons of people who freaking said that they had seen this, that they had seen the Mothman. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't this wasn't like just a group of people who were involved in it. This was like a lot of the people who were actually involved in who escaped the incident.
Okay, I was just thinking on the point of if you give me enough beers, I could see blue fluffy unicorns. Sort of point of view. You know me being the skeptical peasant I am, but
yeah, they said over 100 people reported seeing the Mothman in the Point Pleasant area between 1967 and 1966 and 1967. Now, there's no official record or specific number of people who witnessed the creature on the Silver Bridge itself just before it collapsed in December the 15th, 1967.
Could it be a situation where they may have seen a bird or some other animal, and then somebody came to the conclusion that it was the Mothman, and then that ideas to spread?
Yeah. Now, that is kind of interesting because I was pretty sure that I'd seen at one time where they did have people who had eyewitness accounts of it. I really wish that my talking points didn't get deleted on my computer, because I had all this stuff down at one time. Now, what I found out is there was quite a bit of people who actually did say that they had seen the Mothman during that time period. Now, I'm not going to like say that, you know, like people at Chernobyl actually saw the Mothman, or people at 9/11, you know what I mean? Because I know that you know, people do kind of take that a little bit too far.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Oh, yeah. My point is, a sort of mass hysteria sort of thing.
Now, see, that is what I was waiting for. You know how I told you I like hearing keywords, and like you just said the keyword. You said mass hysteria. Okay. Now that is something that they also link with the Jersey Devil too, with like mass hysteria, and they use it with Mothman. Now, this goes into kind of the whole area that I would talk about when it comes to consciousness. Okay. Now, me, you, and Otto, and Nancy, and all of us have talked about the consciousness and if it's localized or if it's not localized. Now, if you look at this from a psychological point of view, okay, especially when it comes to hypnotherapy or hypnopsychology, when it comes to the consciousness, now if it's mass hysteria, that would kind of suggest that consciousness isn't localized, that freaking for an entire community to freaking experience this and witness mass hysteria, there has to be a consciousness that's outside of the localized brain. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily. I mean, we live in well, now we live in a world where everything's connected, because of the internet, and even if you put on a sort of localized sort of situation, people talk, people read. If you're in a small town, everybody reads the same sort of newspapers. Everybody talks to them at the local bar.
Yeah, but in 1966 and 1967, you didn't talk that kind of stuff, man. People would think you were crazy.
You would have your local public news broadcasters. You'd have your newspapers.
Huh?
You have a sort of you'll have common talking points and common news broadcasting.
Well, I mean, it's like I said too. This did happen in 1966 and 67, and it's just like with people who witnessed UFOs. You know what I mean? You didn't talk about that stuff openly in public, like you did it with people who you know or you knew believed in UFOs and stuff.
How big is this community in Virginia? Or how big was the community at that time?
Well, I know that they have at least 60,000.
Okay. And how many people were reporting this? What percentage?
They had well over 100. I'm pretty sure they said well over 100 sightings during that 1 year.
So we're talking about very small numbers. So yeah.
Let me see. I can probably
people just talking to each other and then come up with a conclusion.
This grew though. That's the whole thing about it. This grew really big.
Yeah, but if you sensationalizing something, I mean, if you sensationalizing something that sort of hits some people's imagination, then yeah, it's going to grow. I mean, look at the Awesome Males War of the Worlds radio thing back in the 30s.
Yeah, that did cause mass hysteria right there.
And it's a difference, really.
Now, the thing that really got me is after all of that, I started doing research into it. And like I said, you know, there was people who connected this to Chernobyl, and they also connected it to freaking 9/11. But then it kind of goes a little bit deeper too. Um, you know, now th- this this is interesting right here when it comes to this story, because the TNT area, okay. Now this is where you start really getting into some of the weirdness. Now, like you'll hear people talk about Stranger Things and things like that on television and where that originally came from. But like right here, the TNT area, now that's officially known as the West Virginia Ordnance Works. And it was a 10,000 acre decommissioned World War II explosives manufacturing site. Now, eventually that became the epicenter for what most researchers call high strangeness. I mean, literally, the term high strangeness came out of this freaking this place. Okay. Now, during the 13-month period of Mothman sightings, the area was plagued by a variety of unexplained phenomenon, like UFO activities. Okay.
Actually, also, wasn't an X-Files episode based on this?
Yeah, actually it is.
Yeah, that's another reference I seem to remember. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now witnesses and researchers like John Keel, they reported like a massive surge of unidentified aerial phenomena over the site. Besides that, they also talked about bright orbs, and this was from the residents. They reported seeing like luminous multicolored orbs that could hover, they could change direction instantly, and they reacted to flashlights. Okay, this was before they started talking about orbs when it comes to UFOs and things like that. They were saying this stuff back in 1966. You know what I mean? Like orbs, from what I've noticed here lately, orbs became really popular after the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Okay. A lot of people talked about orbs and everything when it came to like spiritual, like ghost hunting and stuff like that. Yeah, they did that. But
I don't know. The concept of flying orbs is not new. Then I mean, I'm just thinking of brief encounters of the third kind.
Well,
that was late 70s, mid 70s.
Well, I mean, where they became popular, it would actually be oh my god, I'm having a brain fart now. Skinwalker Ranch is probably where the orbs actually became most popular. After Skinwalker Ranch broke out, that's where people started talking a lot more about the orbs, and that kind of goes into the whole consciousness thing too with me. You know what I mean? Like, because like there's a lot of weird stuff that they talk about on Skinwalker Ranch, and that really hits hard when it comes to this TNT area too in Virginia, because they're, like I said, the residences were the ones who were talking about this, and they said that these orbs would even react to flashlights, you know. And then like this is where a lot of people started seeing freaking when it comes to the cigar-shaped crafts.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people started describing cigar-shaped, and as well as the saucer UFOs and stuff. Now they would describe them as being they didn't describe them being very big. They usually said they were between 4 and 8 feet in diameter, which would mean that they were.
Yeah, but what sort of distance away? I mean, somebody's got to look smaller if it's far away, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, what sort of distance away from these people are we talking about?
That's a good question, actually. You know, like, I haven't seen very much footage when it comes to like actual footage in that area where they've seen them. So that really is a good one. Now the thing too that I want to mention about the bridge, especially, because they did say that this happened when the freaking bridge collapsed, was the electronics and the mechanical malfunctions. And this has happened with a lot of these sightings. Like many of the encounters that were involved with the Mothman or the strange lights, even, they were also accompanied by the failure of like freaking vehicles, drivers.
Okay. As far as lights are concerned, could it not be argued that the lights are due to the malfunctions?
Well, the thing of it is, it's like engines were stalling, and car headlights flickered. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now this is not just on the bridge, but like in the TNT area where the TNT bunkers were.
Yeah.
They would also experience it there as well. And then like local residences would complain of like bizarre buzzing sounds or persistent static on their television sets. And like,
yeah, but that's it's not more of a technological common factor with CRTs because how they work.
they even had interference with like police dispatch radios.
So some sort of atmospheric sort of external phenomena.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is too is like there's a lot, and I've actually heard some people talking about it too. Like they mentioned the Men in Black. Like Point Pleasant has had a lot. They've actually cited themselves as being like the first documented location for the Men in Black phenomena. You know what I mean? Like
anybody who's wearing a black suit must be a man in black. I wear a black. In fact, I'm wearing a black suit
well,
now.
I'm still debating on you. That's not a good argument. I'm still debating on you, Mr. Edworthy. Mr. Edworthy. Now,
it's a good point. Just because you've got a group of people wearing black suits doesn't mean that it's like some sort of secret order conspiracy thing.
Well, as the story goes, though, they say that these strange men who are in black suits and overcoats, they appeared in town following Mothman sightings. And the only reason why they were there was to question witnesses. Okay?
Actually, to be fair, I'm wearing a charcoal grey suit, not a black one, but nevertheless.
Now,
I don't know.
Now, witnesses describe them as having like a wrong appearance. They move like automatons, basically. And they speak in broken English or like strange accents. And they're always driving like older model black sedans.
Strange accents. Could it just be the issue of these people are not, let's say, worldly knowledgeable? I mean, if I went to the US and I spoke in my accent, people would say I speak in a strange accent.
Well, I mean, they're just showing up in town mysteriously and asking witnesses about freaking the Mothman, and they can't speak English very well. They act like an automaton.
What do you mean, act like an automaton? How
Well,
do you act like an automaton?
a robot.
Yeah, how?
You've never
In what sort of form are we talking about?
you've never thought about how an automaton would act, like they would have their arms just barely kind of moving and shifting and turning, just kind of in a weird robotic way,
Okay.
Like not quite like a human would.
Stiff. Mechanical stiff.
Yeah, like in a mechanical way. Now, they've also mentioned some weird stuff too when it comes to like animals. Now, pets also seem to have reacted with a lot of terror before some of these sightings. Now, they also say that a local contractor by the name of Newell Partridge, he had reported his German Shepherd had disappeared into the darkness after barking at a bicycle reflector, red eyes in a field, kind of like, I guess.
But if that dog is not familiar with such, with those reflector type things, and then going to consider it to be strange, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, also they've also made claims that that they've received odd, garbling phone calls or experienced poltergeist activities in their homes. And that doesn't even.
What, dishes flying around the room or something?
Yeah. That doesn't even bring the vortex theory into play. Like we haven't even gone over the vortex theory. That's the part where I start talking about like the government and their experiments into consciousness and stuff. You know what I mean? Which, to me, I've been doing a lot of research into this whole consciousness thing, and it's really amazing how much I've found that like the government has been actively researching consciousness.
I'm aware of both the Soviet and the US experiments into extrasensory perception.
Mm-hmm. Well, how far have they gone with it? And like I mentioned on Nancy's show, the final part that I mentioned where everybody went silent, didn't say nothing. I think the part that really blew them out of the water was when I brought up freaking CERN. You know what I mean? Because they didn't expect that. But let's look at CERN. I know that sounds crazy, dude, but freaking seriously, look at it. You know what I mean? And when it comes to consciousness, and the kind of experiments that we're doing when it comes to this stuff, you know what I mean? But I'm sorry, I know I was busting up laughing a little bit, but I just remembered because I was sitting there saying this stuff and everybody just went silent. And then when I was done talking, it took like 3 freaking minutes. It felt like 3 minutes before anybody could even comment, you know what I mean? But I really do believe, man, that there's some really dark shit that these people are doing when it comes to a lot of that stuff, and it has to do with consciousness. It has to do with black holes, for one thing. I believe that they're trying to create their own black hole so that they can transfer all of our consciousness into this freaking. Well, first they have to create uh, universe. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's going to take a while. Don't get me wrong. It's going to take a while. But once they create that, they're going to have it put into a black hole that they create through the technology they develop through CERN. You know what I mean? And to prolong our eventual demise with the universe when it collapses, they're going to transfer all of our consciousness into this freaking black hole with this universe within it. You know what I mean? And
That raises a lot of questions. Hey, how do you create a universe? I mean, our understanding of the theory of the Big Bang is still rudimentary. B, this solar system will die long before this universe. But well, the solar system is halfway through its lifespan now, isn't it?
Mhm. Well, see, this isn't like any kind of like pseudoscience or anything. What this is actually theories that are being discussed amongst scientists themselves when it comes to doing these things. They call it it is theory, okay, but what it is it's not science fiction. It's actually they're saying, well, what would happen if we did this or we did that, and
Well, technically it's fiction until it can be proven to be factual.
Mhm.
So
But-
technically it is science fiction at this present moment because there's no... It's not been done, it's not been replicated.
well, they can't really can't do any of that with like they have their theories on black holes, and we were just discussing that the other night on the quantum gathering, I believe, where like even with black holes, like mathematically they talk about black holes and how they exist, but they've never observed a black hole. Okay. Like there has never been any evidence visually that black holes exist. All of it's mathematical theory, you know.
Yeah, I've read Hawkins, the time universe and everything.
Mhm.
Well, I've read Hawkins and my time, but plays into this. Again, it's all theoretical.
And you know, my whole point is like they have to start somewhere. Like this is something that's going to take them a very, very long time, but they have to start somewhere. And it's like when you look at CERN and you look at what they're doing there, that's just the beginning. You know what I mean? That's one step in a lot of steps afterwards. You know, but I really believe that they have been doing this research when it comes to consciousness, and I believe that like with the whole concept of consciousness, whenever you start looking at the evidence of what they've done, the physical evidence that has nothing to do with conspiracy or anything else, just the actual known research that they've done concerning consciousness, it would really wake you up to what's going on when it comes to science. I did my first year of weird science last year on the channel, and I've gone through and I've discussed it, you know what I mean, about a lot of the weird stuff going on in science, and this is one of them. And it really is interesting, and it's like even like in computer science when they talk about paradigms, okay, like paradigms isn't just computer science. You know what I mean? There's actual real paradigms in our reality and the way we think. That's what separates humans apart from, well, maybe even animals, but especially computers. You know what I mean? Like we live in paradigms and we learn how to shift according to those paradigms. When things change in our life, we adapt to it. Well, that's oh god, we
It's
got
fine. Neil agree. Sorry.
the Roki's calling.
Yeah.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, presumably it's just setting up another. They can leave. It's probably just in setting up another stream himself.
Yeah, he's probably just wanting to set up a stream. Let me see what's going on.
But yeah, it's about the right time for him. That's right.
No, he hasn't been posting anything, man. So, it's very interesting. Yeah, he did. He posted he wants to do a show. But yeah, but that's the thing that I've learned when it comes to this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like freaking these are things that people are learning not only because of freaking CERN or anything, but they've been learning it through computer science, that it is true that they have to, because they're teaching computers how to freaking adjust from one paradigm to another. You know what I mean? And you take
the entire do of what most people argue as the concept of artificial intelligence.
Right. Well, I was thinking more. I was thinking more on the concept of oh god, what am I thinking of? Computers. It's starts with an M or F. But no, it's I was thinking more on the lines of my goodness, I cannot believe that I'm having a hard time with my memory now. But yeah, but artificial intelligence is a part of it. But
and the normal gates, that sort of procedures. Yeah.
Well, like even with weather, you know what I mean? They're trying to use this technology with weather to try to figure out the weather patterns a lot better. When it comes to like weather change and stuff like that, because they have to figure out the shift in behaviors before they occur. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So they want to create this computer that will do that doesn't think like a regular computer would.
No.
So that's the thing that I wanted to bring up, and I forgot what the damn name of it is. It's I'm gonna try to Google it and see if I can find it. I doubt if I can, but I'm thinking more on the lines of like fractal. No, not fractal. Especially when it comes to paradigms. Quantum computers. There we go. Quantum computing is what I was thinking more on the lines of, like, especially when it gets into quantum computing, where they have to look at different paradigms and be able to freaking switch from one paradigm to another with quantum computing. That's the thing that really sticks out to me. That's the giveaway when you know, because I think they said that they've actually been able to come up with 3 different paradigms for a quantum computer.
In what sense?
Um, well, the quantum computer freaking has to think, and then has to change its thinking
Well,
from
has
one.
to calculate. I'm not sure. Thinking is the correct term.
Well, I don't.
Calculate.
Yeah, it has to calculate. And the deal is it's like you have different paradigms, different situations that they have to adjust to. So like I've used this example before, but like when you ask a computer what the color of brown smells like, they're going to have to switch from one paradigm to another, and they have to be able to um, basically articulate what the color brown would smell like. That's something
Okay.
that's something a human can do, but a computer is not programmed to do that. You see what I
Oh,
mean?
because it's based on logic. It's not if input is A, then do this. If not, then do that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And this all relates to what I'm talking about when it comes to paradigms. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to reality and being able to understand that you have to shift from this reality to this reality. You go from one paradigm to another, one reality to another. Okay, and that's what they're doing research into. It doesn't have to just do with freaking quantum computers and learning about paradigms and how a computer needs to think. It's actually they're trying to figure out the human brain so that they can understand how to manipulate paradigms in reality and consciousness. You know what I mean?
I do not like the term a computer thinks. That's
Well,
giving a human traits to or a humanistic trait to a computer.
it might be a fact someday. You know,
And
I mean, you might actually be like a half breed Cylon. You know that, right?
I'm all flesh and blood.
Well, I'm just saying that there's a good chance that we all have a little bit of Cylon in us. You know what a Cylon is, right?
Yeah, I think you've been watching too much science fiction.
Well,
Personally.
well, if you take a look at it, okay, how is it that we have such a close relationship with freaking technology like we do? You know,
Because we create technology.
yeah, we create technology, and it's like if you take a look at the way we've evolved and you compare that to the way all the other animals around us have evolved, and then you listen to like people talk about evolution and you just look at the difference how we've evolved compared to the animals around us, you can tell that it's just a load of shit. You know what I mean? We've evolved way faster than any other animal on this planet, okay? If we've evolved so fast, then why don't we have all of these other animals riding bicycles?
Because they often got opposing thumbs.
Oh,
to use a wasn't a Douglas Adams joke? Tigers Guide to the Galaxy? Because opposing thumbs.
well, you know, there's another thing that was brought up that I kind of agree with too, and I forgot who mentioned it, but he mentioned it a while back. It was back in the 70s or the 80s. He did a lecture and he said, if you take a look at the physical at the physical aspects of the human body, okay, and you go according to what the evolutionists say about how we're supposed to be evolving, then you explain to me how we went from having a freaking foot and a foot without a freaking thumb, a big toe that actually is a thumb that grabs a hold of branches. Okay, now that's actually more advanced than what our toe is. Okay, but if you think on an evolutionary level, you have to ask yourself why would our human body freaking
Environmental
actually
factors.
devolve?
Environmental factors. If humans had no need for climbing and swinging from trees, then why would we evolve to have physical traits that would allow us to do that?
That brings us to the second part of my argument. If that was the case, then why do we still have the appendix? A completely useless organ that freaking nobody knows what its function is or how it was ever used is still in our bodies.
Because
Okay.
that's just a run over. That's just something that has yet to be. Well, that's just.
It shouldn't be
Yeah.
there. If we went according to the way that evolutionists think and the stuff that they're putting out to us, then
Yeah, but the
that
appendix
appendix
was
should.
used.
When was it?
Like I'm not a medical expert, but for a purpose at one point, and I mean, just because we don't use it now doesn't mean they will. One day it will just immediately disappear.
Well,
This goes.
it would be gone if we go according to like the way
No,
the big
it's a
thumb.
slow process, isn't it?
Well, what about that big toe? If we evolved
The
if we
big toe
evolved from
is the
primates,
big toe is used for the purpose of one uses for the purpose of balance.
if we naturally evolved from primates, then that we should still have that cool freaking toe on us that helps us to climb trees, dude. Because that is a more advanced toe than the one we have now. The only thing that our big toe does now is it helps us freaking have balance so that we could stand up straight. Which
I'm not sure the only purpose, but that's probably the main purpose.
you know, but see, if you look at it in reality, though, freaking the primate has a more advanced toe than what we do because they use that for climbing. They use that for freaking being able to grab onto things, things of that nature. So we basically they're trying to say that we devolved there instead of evolved. We went backwards because we no longer needed that toe. But then they still can't.
It's like the backbone, isn't it? We've all got fetch it. What is a remaining part of a tail.
Right. Exactly. You see,
Even though, yeah.
these are the kind of things that freaking I was talking about when it comes to like you. There's a good chance that you could actually be a freaking Cylon, a half Cylon. You could be genetically altered so that we could actually evolve. And it does seem odd that we have this close relationship to our technology, kind of like we're.
When you say genetically altered, what do you mean? Because I would argue that just our environmental conditions have aided in the alteration of.
Well, if that was the case, it would have happened with all the other fine creatures that we have around us.
No, different creatures, different body parts evolve or devolve at different rates. Again, depends on environmental processes.
I I really doubt that is actually a legitimate thing to say though, because like I said, uh, we seem to be evolving a lot faster in our knowledge in the way we actually have evolved is just way, way faster than what the rest of the world when it comes to creatures are. Now, you could take the stance like most religious people do that we are a higher being, we aren't like the animals, you know what I'm saying? But if you're looking at it from an evolutionist point of view, then that doesn't really fit. You know what I mean? It doesn't fit. If nothing else, that actually is a better argument for being like religious than you know evolutionists. I mean, evolution doesn't really seem to account for a lot of things if you stop and look at it. That's just my take on it,
Right? I'm not so sure.
you know. And that's the physical aspects, you know.
Uh,
Now, just to finish it up on the whole thing with the Mothman, okay? Now, today, just so you know, the TNT area is a super fun site, and
see,
they
super.
yeah, and that's due to groundwater contamination. For and they say that that's because from wartime chemicals. Okay,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and a lot of skeptics they suggest that that might have been the cause for hallucinations or even local mutations. You know, um,
Possibly.
so for me, I don't know. That kind of takes you into areas that also goes into like the government experiments. It even goes into the more uh, crazier theories like with MK Ultra and stuff like that, where you have these deformed creatures washing up on the side of the beach and everything. I remember those from a long time ago, and they are legit. Like you see this crazy looking deformed animal, that is washed up on the shore, and to this day, freaking they don't want to admit that it came from a certain island that we will not mention. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. You
And
have to fill me in that one and
yeah,
give me more information later on that one.
the Montauk experiments is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I'm not
They
sure about the actual animals you're talking about.
it all of it started out because of the Montauk monster. Okay, now the Montauk monster was this deformed animal that frickin' was washed up on shore, and the research facility that was involved with Montauk had been apparently doing some kind of strange research on animal mutations and stuff like that. And as you
You
know, if
you
huh?
say deformed animal.
Yeah.
What animal? What sort of animal?
You can't really tell what kind of animal it is.
If it's deformed, you must be able to identify
Hey, you
the
go
animal first to be able to identify that it's deformed.
you're in front of that computer. You go ahead and do a Google search for Montauk monster, and it will show you a picture of what that sucker looks like. I could not tell you what kind of animal that is. Okay. It is just it's unrecognizable. And I don't think too many people honestly could tell you what kind of animal that is because it's really, really strange. It's a really, really strange animal.
Okay.
Okay, so
Something prehistoric.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty creepy looking, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know, some sort of
No.
mammal with a beak.
Mhm. Now, see, this is the reason why I don't get caught up in a lot of that other stuff, like the MK Ultra stuff or like the remote viewing stuff, because like people will lose track of information like this, like the Montauk monster. Okay, um, now they're talking about now with this TNT area um, having contamination and water chemicals and stuff like that. And they're saying that it could be causing hallucinations or local mutations and stuff like that,
Mhm.
which is the same thing as Montauk. You know, they're talking about local mutations and stuff of that nature. Now the hallucinations, I think that could be experiments that they have been doing when it comes to freaking like consciousness and trying to influence the surroundings. You know what I mean? I really, if
Are you
anything,
sure I could make it an argument like some sort of chemical or some sort of thing is accidentally entered the waterways?
well, I mean, hopefully they find out for sure if that's the truth. But you'd think after all this time from 1966 to now, they would have figured something out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, but then again, this goes back to the sort of question about how reliable are organizations or agencies such as the US FDA, yeah, how reliable have they been?
okay, so now that you've started talking about how reliable things are, let's get on to the next one. Let's talk about the Ministry of Defense for the UK and how they recalled 18 files.
Yeah, you said 18 files earlier, and I only didn't actually say what these files were about.
Okay, now in 2013, the UK Ministry of Defense they claimed to have released it. It claimed to have released its final batch of declassified UFO documents. Yet it later admitted that 18 specific files had been withheld from the National Archives. Now, these files, they're often called the real life X files, and they were reportedly kept back for additional security vetting because they contained potentially sensitive information or personal details that required redacting.
Mhm.
Okay, so uh, while the uh, Ministry of Defense officially closed its UFO desk in 2009, these 18 files were part of a broader trunque, or however they say,
Trump,
trenche.
Trump. uh,
You guys have a weird way of saying stuff.
Group of files, that's the column.
Uh, ex-
Yeah.
uh, and they were expected in 2013 that uh, that didn't appear as scheduled. Okay. Now, after years of delays and freedom of information requests from researchers, the Ministry of Defense they did begin releasing the withheld documents in stages. Now, in 2017, a batch of 15 files was quietly released to the National Archives. Okay. And then in 2018, the final three files were cleared for public viewing. Uh,
National Archives, UK National Archives.
mhm.
Such a department.
Now, despite the secrecy, the files largely mirrored previously released uh, detailed unidentified flying object sightings near landmarks like Stonehenge and the House of Parliament, along with internal memos discussing the closure of the UFO desk. Now, to me, that sounds like it's just a bunch of hogwash. I think they just used it as fillers because people in the ufology community was asking about these 18 files. since 2013 at least. Okay, and they kept withholding them, and then they just released fluff documents. That's just
Right.
my take on it. I really don't believe that these 18 files had actually been released. To be honest with you,
Okay.
no. I went over some of the newer stuff that came out with it, and they did say that they had been released in 2018 eventually, but they were done quietly. And the stuff that I found out about it is like I found out like they're it's just fluff pieces in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like they're talking about memos that discuss the UFO desk being shut down. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or they were talking about sightings over Stonehenge or the House of Parliament, which had already been released. But then they held these back. I mean, they literally had them okayed for release to the archives, and then they redacted it. They actually retracted them and brought them back to the Ministry of Defense so that they could supposedly do more redacting to them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It took that long for them to put it out, and I still don't believe that they actually did put up the documents that they were supposed to. That's just my take. So what do you think about that, man?
Without knowing what's in the files, we can't comment, but it doesn't necessarily mean that these files relate to extraterrestrial activities. Could be related to, I don't know, Cold War related activities, as an example.
Now,
More, yeah, more national security related issues.
the thing about these files though, and I don't know if you're aware of this because well, I know you're in England, okay? But
Mm.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but England has some of the highest freaking sighting rates than most of the countries in the world, okay? And I don't know if you're aware of that or not. Like the United States has a lot of UFO sightings too, but like the UK has a crap load of them, okay?
Over the course of what period?
Since they've been talking about them. I couldn't tell you exactly how
The
long.
16th century, yesterday. Well, yeah,
Well,
how long
mo-
are we
most
talking about?
most of it would actually be occurring like right in between or after the world wars, especially after the nuclear bomb was set off in Japan.
So again, goes back to the Cold War theory.
Well, not really, because like I mean these files, man. I mean it's like England took a really serious approach on the UFO thing, and then like they did an about face with it. Like
Mhm.
um, they actually have a huge file on UFOs. When they released those files, there was a crap load of them. Okay,
In theory, a lot of countries have the large
I'm
files
telling
in relation to, but they have not been released, or they are in an archive
dude,
in some governmental basement.
I'm telling you, UK has a lot of files on UFOs. I mean, a lot.
That we know of. Doesn't mean that doesn't
Okay,
discount that other countries haven't.
a lot that we know of means that they still have a lot. Okay, I mean a lot.
Right.
Okay, and there's most likely like these 18 files that I mentioned. There's likely more files that they don't want people to know about. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, And then they did an about face. Even though they have all this documentation, they claim that they have found no evidence of extraterrestrial life or a direct military threat in over 50 years of data. So apparently it is 50 years. So
Okay.
over 50 years amount of time. Okay. And some of the most amazing UFO sightings have come out of England, just so you know. If you ever get curious and you want to find out some of the sightings,
When did they shut down their? Well,
2009, I believe.
so we're still talking about since the 1960s,
Mm-hmm.
say 50 years. Yeah.
Yep. It'd be 19. It'd be 19. Actually, it'd be 1959 when they started, wouldn't it?
Okay. Yeah. So just before the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Mm-hmm.
we were always afraid of nukes being exploded overhead. Yeah, so yeah, you could argue that it's all Cold War related. It's all national security, Cold War related
Well,
information.
you've heard of the Rendlesham Forest, right?
Not off the top of my head.
The Rendlesham Forest incident. It's like one of the most famous cases in the UK files.
You probably
Guards,
laughed that right.
guards at this base in Rendlesham Forest, okay, actually went out because they had seen a mysterious freaking object that seemed to have to them it seemed like it crashed in the forest around the base.
Mm-hmm.
So they turned around and they freaking got in vehicles and they went out there and they literally walked up on this spaceship and they described it to a T. One of the guys touched the spaceship and he swears that he had freaking binary code that had gone into his brain and he went home and he could not get it out of his brain. So he eventually sat up, wrote it out, had it all written down and it stopped bugging him. Okay. After he'd done it. And he never touched it again for like maybe 20, 30 years. And then when he finally did, he had a guy go and try to freaking see what the 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 freaking what it said, okay? The binary code, what it said, and it actually meant something. And this was a guy who never freaking brought it up, never mentioned it or anything. Okay, he had this information and he came out with it, and then finally they finally admitted that the Rendlesham forest incident actually took place. Okay,
Okay, you said spaceship. Right.
a
Ascertaining
freaking
was a
a UFO.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's yeah. So it could be something of terrestrial may.
Well, I mean, after it's on the ground and it's spinning around, I really have a hard time with calling it a unidentified flying object.
Well, it's not flying anymore.
Yeah.
That's for one thing.
and,
uh,
and according to him and the other two, they said they've all said that they actually walked up on it, got to look at it. They said there was strange freaking writing that was on the outside of the ship. He went to touch it, and that's when it happened to him.
strange white and Russian Cyrillic.
Well,
Sorry.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have claimed that, you know, these governments have been reverse engineering UFO technology and creating their own ships and
Area
stuff.
51, yeah.
Hmm.
The arguments, yeah.
And I wouldn't put it past the English to doing it because they have had their fingers in a lot of this stuff. And that's actually something I think you would find interesting.
Hmm. Well, I would need to see some actual evidence rather than.
Well, basically, I can run it through and let you know how it all played out. Now, in 2013, the MOD they announced the release of the final 25 UFO files. However, it was quickly discovered by the researchers in the media that like 18 specific files were missing from the final batch. Okay. Now, the reason for the recall, the MOD officially stated that these files were recalled or withheld for further security vetting. Okay, they claim that the documents contain potentially sensitive information or personal data that hadn't been properly redacted according to the National Archive standards. Okay. So in 2014, administrative errors had occurred. Now, that's where the MOD admitted that an administrative error recording these files had occurred. And they also stated that it had been sent to the archive but then pulled back for reevaluation. Now, this sparked a lot of controversy among the UFO researchers who accused the government of cover up or using stalling tactics.
Okay.
So after that, there was.
I can easily believe in administration errors. I mean,
Mhm.
nine public sector services in this country have a long history of administration errors. But yeah, I can appreciate that point.
But the plot thickens from here, okay? Because then there was gradual releases, okay? Now, after like intensive pressure in like the Freedom of Information request that I mentioned before,
Mm.
the MOD finally began trickling these 18 files out gradually. Uh, Now, 15 files were released in June of 2017, and the remaining 3 files were finally made public in 2018. Okay. Now,
These files, um,
go ahead.
uh, do they talk about actual occurrences, or do they talk about this person's status this hearsay sort of thing? I asked this because Nancy is convinced that what was the paperwork that talks about it, the FBI files that talk about Hitler moving to Argentina.
Well,
Um, those documents only, and I've reviewed those documents, and those documents only talk about um, some journalists meeting local people who claimed that they've met somebody that they described as looking and or looking like Adolf Hitler.
Well, see, the thing with these files is like it's like it goes back to what I said. I don't believe they're the authentic files because it's fluff. You know what I mean? They're talking about conversations that are taking place about the release of the documents in 2009 between the the freaking people who are in charge of the archives and stuff of that nature. Uh, these wouldn't be files that needed to be pulled back and redacted, and then much less be gradually
Yeah,
released.
names and contact information, personal identifiable information would have to be
For
removed.
gradually released, and it took what 17 years? No, 10 years actually, 10 or 8 or 10 years, I guess it would be.
Wow.
2017 from 2009 to 2017. That's
Well, if it is just fluff documentation, then there is no real priority in releasing them. There's no priority
right.
in spending taxpayers' money on
They just
actually
they just pulled some
redacting. administrating them.
They just pulled some crap files out, redacted some stuff, and sent it out because they were sick of people who were into ufology and researchers. They were sick of them saying that you're infringing on our right to for to this information, our freedom of information requests. You know what I mean? They were sick of it, so they just went ahead and they pulled some crap files out, put some redaction on it, and released that.
But anything that is related to national security is not applicable to freedom of information requests.
Then they would have to officially say that there was something in these 18 files. You get what I'm saying? Like, they don't want people to know that they
Yeah,
actually
but that
have.
pushes conspiracy theories
Yeah,
even further, doesn't it?
yeah, it does.
It's a sort of catch-22 sort of situation.
Yeah, it really is.
So they can't win either way.
Yeah, either way, you know what I mean? It's just like that's the thing, man. It just and don't get me wrong, while the files they supposedly were eventually released, the fact that they were recalled.
Yeah, because again, potentially personal identifiable information was in there. Was
Well, I mean,
published.
there is a good chance that the Ministry of Defense is still hiding significant details about its intelligence gathering capabilities when it comes to UFOs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because I really do believe that. If nothing else, they went to large. It would show that they went to a large, um, or they made a huge effort. Is the best way of saying it, of trying to fricking do research and find out about these UFOs. It was more than just, you know, oh, those crazy old men out there doing freaking, crop circles with a board. It wasn't that at all, dude. They were doing serious research into this stuff, and I, either that or they were using it as a front for um, covering up their espionage. It could be that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I do believe that a lot of these organizations use the ufology thing as a like a way of covering up what they're actually doing. Blame it on UFOs and spaceships. Oh, it's a
Yeah,
UFO.
push that narrative to stop sensitive security information being leaked.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I could very well see that.
And used to say that the Russians once putting planes up in the sky and spying on us at the time. I mean, you could make an argument about China at this present moment,
Well,
both in
they,
the UK and the US. And
yeah,
yeah,
they had their own area 50, 51, I believe, 57. Area 57, or is it 51? I'm having a hard time tonight. My whole brain is messing up. Area 51, man. Yeah, I gotta keep my head straight. I'm literally, my head's getting ready to fall asleep here, I guess. Yeah, it's Area 51. But yeah, they've got a Russian Area 51. I can pull up the name. Yeah, it's the Kapustin Yar. Kapustin Yar. Have you ever heard of that one?
sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's in extra Astrakhan Oblast. And it's 100 kilometers east of Volgograd. And it's usually considered the equivalence of Area 51, but in Russia. They have a whole freaking story behind that one. Like they believe that I don't know if you've ever seen the video footage of the supposed Russian soldiers that are around the crashed UFO site, and they have the UFO sitting up against a tree.
Okay.
Have you ever seen that video footage?
Nope.
Well, they claim that that was one of the possible UFOs that were shot down, and it was taken to this facility. So it's it's actually pretty interesting. I watched some of the video footage, and I'm kind of doubtful on it too because the uniforms doesn't show like that. They show like real generic insignias, but
Okay.
there's no rank or anything on the jackets because it's in the middle of the winter time, you know.
They are. They look like official uniforms of that time.
Well, kind of, yeah,
You are familiar with Russian military uniforms
yeah,
pre, pre-collapse, Soviet collapse.
yeah. I've
Uh,
done because I also had to check all that out when it comes to Egypt as well. Like there's been allegations that Russians went down into one of the tombs and that a poisonous gas was released that killed a lot of them that was inside the tomb, and they've got an old video of that as well. And supposedly an alien was in one of the tombs, and they pulled it out and they had it in high.
alien as an extraterrestrial.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
some interesting stuff there if you ever get curious and you want to run through that. Actually, I could probably run it through you at some other time just to torture the hell out of you. Would you like to do that with me, Mr. Edworthy?
I love being tortured. As long as he gives me some background beforehand.
That's gonna happen, dude. Freaking every time I give you background and stuff, it's you're still not prepared. Like you know what I mean? It's like, oh no. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to double check.
You've not scared me off just yet.
Okay, now you
Uh,
you do know about Baba Vanga, right? Or Baba Vanga? Have you
I
ever
was
heard of
thinking
her?
earlier about, and I think I've got the one Carter totally. I was thinking of sort of old wives' tales about sort of scare stories to tell kids to make sure that they behave.
No, Baba Vanga. She was actually a blind Bulgarian mystic. She was also
Yeah.
a herbalist and a clairvoyant, and a lot of people actually freaking gave her or took basically they called her like the freaking Nostradamus of the Balkans, basically. The, now the weird part about her is she lost her sight at the age of 12. Okay,
Mhm.
and when she did, she claimed that she started having visions about the world and events that were going to take place, specifically natural disasters. Okay,
Mhm.
she was credited for predicting 9/11, the attacks on 9/11. She also predicted the Chernobyl disaster, and like even though freaking there's like direct evidence and everything in her prophecies that they do freaking say that it is odd that she's done them. Now a lot of people who try to like debunk her and everything try to say that it's speculative and it lacks direct or written evidence, but like she didn't just beat around the bush about it, you know what I mean? She point blank said that Chernobyl was going to happen, and like her description of 9/11 was right on. Like there was no messing up. You know what I'm saying? So, like Nostradamus, you could say that about like with the burning of London, the London
Mm,
fire. Okay, yeah, that was pretty freaking. It could have happened at any other time. You know what I mean? I
mm,
do give that much credit. Um, and just like with freaking the Titanic, Nostradam was supposed to have seen that coming. Well, I mean, there's a lot of ships that sink, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, 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 yeah. I was just thinking that.
but but it wasn't like that with her. Like she didn't like generalize, you know what I'm saying? She said this was going to happen and it happened. Um, I found that very interesting. Um,
Okay, again, I'm not familiar with the work, so I can't really say anything. But again, I would need to review that stuff to check out the accuracy.
well, they with her, like she was regarded as like a psychic and a telepath with telepathic abilities.
Mm,
And there are some people that even said that she had the power to communicate with aliens, you know. So
right.
it it kind of gets out there into the whole talking about UFOs and aliens and the psychic abilities and the telepathy stuff of that nature. But she is a very interesting character, you know what I mean? There's just some things that you can't turn your head about when it comes to her. And I'm really surprised that she hasn't gotten a lot more recognition than what a lot of these um mystics have gotten, you know what I mean? Like she could have had she should have had just as much clout as what Nostradamus had, you know.
You know,
In my opinion. She was very it was very weird and see she wasn't a rich person. She came from a small village. She was poor. Most of her life she had nothing. You know what I mean? She never
when
gained
did
it.
she die?
She died back in the 90s, I believe, 1996. Yeah.
Okay.
So like she wasn't very rich at all throughout her
How old
life.
was she when she died?
Huh?
How old was she when she died?
She
What was
would
her age?
she would have been about 85,
So she saw what would that be? That'd be
1911 to 1996 is what I have here.
so she would be born around early years would be around the Russian Revolution
Hmm. She
and the
was
childhood. Yeah.
Bulgaria. She was in the
Ah,
Balkans.
okay. Uh,
She would have been in the Balkans, and she spent her most of her life in the Rupide area of Bulgaria. And let's see, her famous predictions was 9/11 attacks. She purportedly warned that American brethren would be attacked by steel birds. And then in Chernobyl,
when did she make that prediction?
it would have been before 9/11. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if she made that prediction in, let's say, 1959, then there could well have been a possibility of because the Cuban Missile Crisis, thus being attacked by steel birds, i.e.,
Yeah.
ICBMs.
Well, see, she was from a very small area. Like I said, she was a peasant. She spent her life in most of her life in Rupite in an area in Bulgaria. You know what I mean? So she didn't live a life where she was freaking, and she was blind since she was 12, so she didn't live a life where she was around like media and hearing about jet airplanes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So like some of the
You
interpretations.
still have in that area. You still have stage broadcasted radio.
Well, I don't know with her. Like by the time 1996 came around, she was in her 80s. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
uh, radio has been around for a good century since. Before that, well, I don't know when. Um, but yeah, you'd be aware of.
well, the weird part about her though is she allegedly also predicted her own death, which was on August the 11th of 1996. She actually predicted her own death allegedly.
What to the date?
Hmm.
Uh, that's an interesting concept in itself.
Now, like a lot of people have um, created a lot of controversies around her. Like they would say that a lot of her predictions are attributed to her like posthumously through the media, you know. Um, and then like with most people who freaking um made predictions, they would, and a lot of them do, where they'd also point out where some of them they didn't materialize. Like a lot of her predictions didn't happen, and that
Mm,
happens to a lot of them. You know what I mean? Even Nostradamus didn't get it right all the
mm,
time. He barely, percentage wise, he didn't get very many of them himself. So like like she talked about like a major war in 2018.
yeah.
You know, so um, we didn't have really a major war in 2018 that I know of, did we?
2018. No. Just trying to think of any sort of wars that happened during that period. I mean,
And she,
you,
uh,
you say we. What do you mean we? We, the United States. We,
well,
Britain. We,
a major war to me would end
World
up being
War.
like World War, but
Like,
she also did.
or are you just making a conclusion there? She said a major war, and you make it concluding that meant World War.
That's what I was getting ready to say. She did predict World War III, but that's going to
Okay.
be in 2026. That'll be this year, so we will see. There's supposed to be a prediction for 2026 World War III and
Okay.
the end of the world. So
Happy New Year, everybody. uh, yeah.
so so I mean there's no other way to freaking end a cool freaking episode of Strange Stories other than mentioning the year 2026 World War III and the end of the world.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to comment on that one, considering
Uh,
various political issues at this present moment.
well, yeah. I mean, that's the reason why I said that it couldn't get better than this. You know what I'm saying? So I I have been trying to keep up with the chats, and I do want to apologize for to everybody for the cutting on and off in live stream. But just to let you know, I do have this recording and the full version. If there is any problems in the live stream, is if there is, there, don't worry, we have the recording going, and I will have this um up and going. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask if you would like to give your socials, Mr. Edworthy.
Just mainly just one. Yeah. So yeah, minds.com under the username Midworthy.
Okay, and you can find us here on the wonderful world of weirdness and strange stories. Now, the wonderful world of weirdness is on Rumble as well as on YouTube. Strange Stories is on YouTube and Minds.com. You can check us out there in the group on Minds.com for Strange Story, as well as the channel on YouTube for Strange Stories. That's where the full edited version of this episode will be. And you can check out the 15-minute videos that I edit out and put on the wonderful world of weirdness for both YouTube and for Rumble on the wonderful world of weirdness. I do the full length edited one on there too, I think, sometimes. I'm not quite sure. But I'll work harder at trying to remember, because if I don't, Mr. Edworthy likes to give me a wrapping. I think that's an English word, isn't it?
Is it?
A thorough wrapping, or a beating of around the neck and the freaking head. A thorough whopping, whatever. But
No Rogers were harmed during this the making of this episode.
if you guys want to check us out too on Discord, you can check us out there at the wonderful world of weirdness. And you can also check us out on Teams at Rogers Hangout, as well as Rogers Hangout on Element Matrix. Besides that, we are on Kick, and that is live with Roger Hansen, as well as on Twitch, which is just Infamous 1969. And with all that being said, I've been able to cover 2 hours on our stream, and I am so proud of myself for doing that. Now, on the recording side, we've only come to an hour and 47 minutes, which is fine because that's more than adequate for a recorded episode, and editing it out and making it look good. So I think we've done good, Mark.
Indeed.
And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream and say thank you guys for watching. If you liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, share, make comments down in the comment section. It's cool to say comments in the chat section, but it's really appreciated if you could do that in the comment section too. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a good night, good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you, and we will talk to you later.